Nick Ferrari at Breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
10 minutes before 8 is the time. We'll come to more of your views. And who is the greater transgressor in the terrible case of Nicola Bulley? Is it the media, particularly in the shape of Sky News and ITV News? And we'll bring you a statement if they seek to defend themselves. Is it the media or is it Lancashire Police? We'll pick up on that, but a little bit later. Because one could argue in a related story, hundreds of thousands of women could benefit from cheaper hormone replacement therapy as part of a scheme to cut prescription costs. I remind you of the tragic case of Nicola Bulley. She was, of course, reported by Lancashire Police to be having issues in that area. Now, the Department of Health says that from the 1st of April, women prescribed HRT as part of menopause treatment will be able to access a new scheme and then get a year's worth of treatment for just under £20. More details now from Conservative MP and Minister for Mental Health and Women's Health Strategy, Maria Caulfield, who comes on the show. Good to have you on, Minister. I'm sorry, you'll probably understand, I don't know, so it's going to be about £20. Typically, what is currently the annual cost for a woman going through this? I have no idea of the figure. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, for most women, it's hundreds of pounds that they're having to pay because they pay a prescription charge. Some are getting monthly prescriptions, so they're having to pay, the prescription charge every month. A lot of women are on dual hormones, so they pay for both the estrogen and progesterone every month. So that's £18.70 every month. So what we're doing is bringing in a HRT prepayment subscription certificate, which from the 1st of April, women will be able to buy online for that £18.70, but it will be the dual prescription charge going forward. And that's their pay. That's all they pay for the whole 12 months. And then whether they're on estrogen, progesterone, gels, patches, and for a lot of women, they have to change their hormone replacement therapy because it doesn't work for them initially, or they get some side effects. So then they have to buy new prescriptions as it is now. That will all change, and it'll be £18.70, the dual prescription charge for the whole 12 months. And that will significantly reduce the cost for women because cost is a barrier for some women in terms of wanting to take HRT. And we want to remove that because it does make a difference. Being able to replace those hormones your body's naturally losing makes a difference to many of those side effects, whether it's hot flushes, whether it's mood swings, brain fog, palpitations, weight gain. The list is huge. Some women don't, sail through the menopause, but many don't. And hormone replacement therapy can make that difference between whether a woman really struggles through the menopause or actually can get through it and can manage those symptoms.
Minister, do we have any idea how many women this will directly affect?
Well, we know that and the numbers are going up all the time because we've seen a 50% increase in the last year in the number of prescriptions because we're talking about the menopause and we're talking about hormone replacement therapy and people aren't afraid now to ask their GP, what about hormone replacement therapy? Will it help me? And so we have about 5 million prescriptions that were issued last year. So it's a significant number of women. And the menopause, it goes from the perimenopausal phase in the early 40s right through to your 50s. So we're not talking about women suffering for days, weeks or months. We're talking about women suffering for years. So this announcement will not just help a significant number of women, but it will help them over a long period of time where currently they're often suffering in silence. So we want to say to women, we recognise the menopause as an issue and we want to help.
I mean, for all the wrong reasons, you'll be aware the menopause is very much in the headlines at the moment, given the tragic case up in Lancashire. Is the release of this news in any way related to that, or was it always scheduled for this day in February?
So for April, for the 1st of April...
No, the announcement, Minister.
Yeah.
Because it does seem it's very relevant with Nicola Bulley and the report from Lancashire Police that the poor woman was experiencing the sort of problems that you've just actually mentioned. I'm wondering whether that was to do with the timing of this announcement, not the implementation, but the timing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We had this planned already, and obviously the tragic case of Nicola, just highlights how important this issue is. But we have to announce it now because we want women to be ready from the 1st of April. And what we're saying to women is if you're currently on a prescription, maybe a 3-month prescription at the moment, don't just buy your certificate on the 1st of April because it only lasts for 12 months. Wait till your prescription's coming to an end. Then you can buy it online. Then from then onwards, you won't be paying anything. You'll have bought your certificate and you show it to the pharmacy and they'll hand over your medication. So we do need this lead-in time to get women ready so that they're aware of this change that's coming.
OK, well done on that, and I think a lot of relief to a lot of women. While I have the Beneview on the line, just a couple of other questions. It's always a pleasure to have you, but I note that the last few occasions you and I have been speaking, there's been industrial action brewing within the health service. You'll be aware the junior doctors now look like they're going on strike for 3 days in March. Where is the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay? Liz Truss once famously was reported to be hiding under a desk. Is Mr Barclay now using that spare capacity?
Well, the Health Secretary has been meeting with unions. He met with them on a weekly basis during January. He's met with them in February. There's a number of unions to be in discussions with at the moment. And he's very disappointed. He said yesterday, in fact, publicly, that he's disappointed by the announcement by the BMA, because the BMA are asking for a 26% pay rise, and that's just not realistically going to happen. And they're in a different system.
Have you sought to negotiate that? Not you personally. Has the government sought to negotiate that down, Minister?
Well, they're in a different situation. They're not under the independent pay review body. Junior doctors have a multi-year settlement, and that was agreed a little while ago and has a little while to run, and that was an 8.4% increase. And the junior doctors and their unions were happy to accept that deal at the time. But yes, we are in discussions with unions, absolutely, and particularly concerned around their announcement that they wouldn't necessarily cover A&E and ITU. So discussions are happening, and I would say to the BMA, 26% isn't reasonable, but we do need to discuss.
But they would say, well, what would you offer then, Minister, wouldn't it?
Well, that's why we would say to them...
On your government's watch, we've had the first ever strike from the RCN in the field of health, and only the second action in the 74-year history of the NHS for junior doctors, all on this Conservative government's watch. It's a disgrace, Minister.
Well, all four nations...
Please don't take that personally.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It is
And
disgraceful that you're at war with a body of men and women such as our doctors, our nurses and our ambulance crews. How, for the love of all that's holy, has the government of which you are a member, how has this been allowed to happen?
So in all four nations, and the government's only responsible for healthcare in England, but in Wales, where Labour run the health service there, in Scotland under the SNP, and in Northern Ireland we don't have a functioning assembly at the moment, but the government there would be responsible. All four nations are facing industrial action. And so it's not just the UK government that's having to negotiate with health unions.
So you're saying that you're just as bad as Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland? That's your defence?
No, I mean, my defence is that, I was a nurse. It's a difficult job working in the health service. We understand that working conditions are very tough and have been the toughest they've ever been in the last 2 years with COVID, recovering from COVID. We've had a very difficult winter. They're long working hours. They're difficult conditions at the best of times, and pay is an issue. And that's why I would say to whether it's the RCN or whether it's the BMA, we need to get round the table to negotiate pay awards. But striking doesn't help that, and it actually puts patients at risk. So my plea would be for them to discuss pay with us, because the door is open, particularly on nurses' pay for this forthcoming year. In Scotland, the RCN have called off strikes in Scotland because they're ready to talk about pay from April. That's exactly what we're offering the RCN. And I would say to Pat Cullen, who I have a lot of respect for, please give England the same offer as they're doing in Scotland. Come and talk to us about pay from April, because the door is open and we want to negotiate.
Just lastly, the story on the front page of one of the newspapers this morning, Minister, The Times. Ministers are prepared to resign over Rishi Sunak's Brexit deal if it risks Northern Ireland's place within the UK. There's a mounting backlash among Eurosceptic Tories to the deal. Would you tender your resignation, your reaction to that story?
Well, I think there's a lot of speculation. There isn't a deal on the table at the moment, so I haven't seen a deal, but the Prime Minister has negotiated because the Northern Ireland Protocol is not working for Northern Ireland right now. We know that it's separated from the rest of the United Kingdom in a number of ways thanks to the protocol, and that needs to be addressed, and that's why the Prime Minister is making this a priority area, and he's meeting with the DUP, he's meeting with Irish politicians, EU politicians to try and resolve this, because let's not pretend the current situation is helpful in Northern Ireland, because that is why they've got no functioning assembly, because they can't agree on the protocol. So the Prime Minister is absolutely right to try and get this resolved. But there's a lot of speculation. No one's seen this deal. So I don't know why people are resigning over something they haven't yet seen. And I was with parliamentary colleagues yesterday. Actually, it wasn't high on the list of topics of discussion. So I think there's a lot of speculation to try and get us back to the Brexit days. And I genuinely don't think that's something that we're going to see. You know,
Tories love a good revolt, Minister. I don't have to tell you that. They're never happier than when there's a revolution in the air. Thank you for your time, Maria Caulfield, who's the Minister for Mental Health and Women's Health Strategy, announcing that advance there for women of an age for whom that HRT's supply will be so important. That comes in as April the 1st. You'll be paying just under £20. OK, a little bit late to the news. We'll come back to our conversation, by the way, concerning the doctor's strike. But 8 o'clock, latest LBC News headlines.
on your radio.